Hey y'all, I'm Gretchen,
I'm Corey.
and we are Two Girls in Jesus, and we are here to dig this week's verses with y'all. Corey, you want to start us out this week?
I would love to. So this week's first version was Hebrews chapter 6, verse 15. And it's another one where I wrote down two different verses. The first one I wrote down was the NIV, and it says, "And so after waiting patiently, Abraham received what was promised." And the reason that I wrote down the New King James Version is it's slightly different. It says, "And so after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise." So obviously, I really like the way that the words were used in that one of patiently endured,
Yeah.
because it felt like when we sit there and we wait for something patiently, um, we can be calm and patient, but saying patiently endured means to me, he went through a lot while he was trying to patiently going through those times. And so it just, that touched something on me. And
Yeah.
that has to be the
Yes.
reason I put it.
Yeah, because he really did endure. I mean, he was 75 years old when God gave him the promise of a son, and he had to wait 25 years. He was 100 years old when Sarah finally became pregnant. And he went through a whole bunch of junk in between there.
Yeah.
And my thing with this verse, the NLT said, then Abraham waited patiently and he received what God had promised. But did he? Did he really wait patiently? Because enter Hagar.
See, this is when
Sarah,
your knowledge goes deeper than mine.
Sarah, okay, she's Abraham's wife. She's like, I'm tired of waiting for a baby. I want you to have my servant Hagar and make a baby with her, and then I'll have a baby and I can raise that baby as my own.
Hmm.
And that's a whole rabbit hole. That's a whole different story right there. But you know what Abraham said? Huh, okay, okay. So did he
Hmm.
really wait patiently? I don't see that, but that's just my opinion. I am not saying God's word is wrong. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I don't see it as he waited patiently.
Okay, so I feel like I've heard this story before, but Abraham had children with Hagar.
Yeah.
How many?
Ishmael.
What? Okay.
Ishmael. Now, and Hagar, listen now, Hagar was an Egyptian. She was Sarah's Egyptian slave. So she didn't even believe in God. I mean, she knew that Abraham and Sarah worshiped God, but she didn't necessarily believe in God. She believed in several different gods. She believed in the god of the Nile, the god of the royal family, um, the female god, I can't remember her name, but the one that makes you have a whole bunch of babies. You know, she believed in a whole bunch of different gods.
Okay, so here's my ignorance. Don't whatever. That's bad for me to say, but all I can hear in my head right now is the song "Father Abraham had seven sons, and seven sons had Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord." So he had Ishmael, and then
Yeah, Ishmael was his first son, yes.
he had the child with
Isaac.
Sarah, and so they just kept having children. Is that what I'm hearing? Or did I just
Um,
make that up because the song says it, and so I have to believe it?
I can't remember if Sarah and Abraham, I don't think they did, and I could be wrong. I don't think they did have more children. I think Isaac was their only son. Isaac then had sons, and Isaac had a whole bunch of kids.
So I was taking it literal, but it's not literal. Okay.
A- And I will look that up, but my first reaction is no, they didn't have any more children. They just had Isaac.
It's so funny. We should have had this discussion before now, because all I talked about is how I don't have blind faith and patience when I was going through this study. Like I took it to about me and my need for working on my patients and having a little more blind faith in the world and listening to his word and not questioning it quite so often or thinking I can twist it to be what I want it to be and make my own rules.
Yeah, and that's why I go back to the things, I get into the context of the Bible and I just take, my foreknowledge from studying the Bible, the different people of the Bible. And that gives you context for these verses, depending on who they were talking to or who was doing the talking, so on and so forth. And I just know from my study of Genesis that, Sarah got ahead of herself. Now, some people will argue that it was Sarah who didn't wait patiently.
Yeah.
But Abraham didn't have to go along with her, just like Adam didn't have to go along with Eve. Like God's given us this promise. We need to wait on God. Like, why did he just agree to that? I mean, I know
because
it was the
because
custom. I know it's what they did in that time. All the men, they had wives, they had a wife, and then they had concubines that they had all these children with. Maybe God needed them to do that to repopulate the earth after Noah. I don't know. I don't understand it. But it frustrates me really bad when I do read this verse because I don't think he did wait patiently. But that's just my opinion. And I'm not here to teach doctrine. I'm not qualified and I don't know enough to do that, but that doesn't say patience to me, just going along with his wife because she was impatient.
yeah.
But did both of your verses, did they both say patient?
No. The New King James Version said, well, the New King James said after he had patiently endured, which to me meant he went through a lot of stuff. Then the NIV just said after waiting patiently. So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't read that verse and knowing the story of Sarah and Abraham.
yeah,
And he did go through some stuff. I mean, he did. And it just shows you how kind God is with everything that he went through. Um, he lied about Sarah being his wife. Sarah was his half sister, but she was also his wife.
mm,
And when they were traveling, God never told him. God told Abraham to go, but he never told him where he was going to.
mm,
So Abraham, God told me to go, so I'm going. Like that's the kind of faith I want right there. I don't know what the destination is. I don't know where he's going, but I'm going.
yeah,
Um, and so going through these different places, Sarah was so beautiful. He told her, don't tell them you're my wife because they'll kill me to take you.
mm,
And in both places, I mean, it happened twice. He lied to the Pharaoh or the king of that area, and they took her for their wife, but God intervened. Thank Jesus, thank you, God, because he intervened to keep anything from happening, defiling her in any way. But yeah, he did go through some stuff. He did endure. Um, but I don't see that as patience. So that leads me to believe, not believe, but it leads me to think that if God gives you a promise, God tells you something, it's going to come true, whether you get in his way or not. He's going to work around you. Okay. But his will happen. His will be done. We need to keep ourselves out of the way. Quit trying to help God. He doesn't need our help.
yeah,
Right. Um, but for me, that's the hard part because I want to help. I want to help everybody, you know, and I want to help and I want to get my hands dirty and I want to jump in and I want to come up with a plan and let me just help you, God. Let me help you. But when we do that, we're working out our own plan. Unless God has specifically said, do this, 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 and this, which he can do. He has done. He's done that for me. But typically, it's an Abraham, go do this. It doesn't give us a timeline, doesn't tell us what it's going to look like in the end. And we just have to wait until he gives us the next step. And, how long are we willing to wait for something God has told us?
Maybe that's why they said patiently, because he waited until he was 100.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. I don't know. But this verse, I struggle with this verse because I don't see it as patiently waiting. He endured for sure, but I don't see it as patient. So, do you have anything else for this verse?
No.
I mean, I guess the only other thing that I would say is if God said it, he will do it and he'll need your help.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put anything different than that either.
Okay. All right. So the next verse was Micah 7:7. And it says, and again, I used the NLT. It says, as for me, I look to the Lord for help. I wait confidently for God to save me, and my God will certainly hear me. Now, that verse gives me some comfort.
Yeah.
It really does. I think it's very plainly stated. I don't think there's a lot of, I don't want to say trickery on the words because I don't think anybody's trying to trick us, but the words are really straightforward. These words actually mean what we think they mean, you
Yeah.
know. But in applying this to my own life, I have to remember that God hears me. And it's not just my prayers that he hears. He hears everything that comes out of my mouth. He knows my thoughts. So I find myself a lot of times saying to other people, oh, it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be wonderful. And in the back of my head, I'm saying, you just don't know what you're in for, buddy. You know, like I say what I know God would want me to say, but I don't really think that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not that I don't believe God can do or will do. It's just in the back of my head, yeah, he done that for me. And
I focused also on the ending where it says, my God will hear me.
yeah.
And I actually said, many days I wonder if God can hear me. Is he listening to the things I'm saying, both good and bad? Does he hear me thanking him, even though it seems like he may hear me asking for help more than giving thanks? I have felt blessed on many occasions. Some of those times I actually haven't felt worthy of the blessing. When I feel guilty for my blessings, I tell myself that is the devil trying to keep me down. So my thought ending it is, what will be, will be. Let me be reminded each day to look for God for his guidance. So I took it back to the beginning where it says, I watch on New King James. Therefore, I will look to the Lord. So I was thinking about him hearing me and reminding myself I have to look to him in order to hear him. So,
Yeah. And one word that pops out at me from this verse is I wait confidently for God to save me. And when you have confidence, you know that you know that you know you're right. And you're not worried, you're not, if you I mean, okay, females, okay, when your hair looks good and the makeup looks good and your outfit is just on point, you walk into any room and you just have that confidence, you know, and you're not worried about the eyelash that's going crazy and the one little hair that won't do right because you have that confidence because you look good and it makes you feel good, right? As women, we've all experienced that. And like in your work, I'm not worried. Nobody, if you have a review, like an employer review or something, you're not worried because you did your job. You're confident in the job that you did. You did everything above par. You don't have, there was no place you tried to cut corners. So you're confident, you're not worried
Mhm.
about that review, you know? And so I applied that to this verse and was like, waiting confidently, you may not know the exact outcome, but you know God hears you and you know that his will be done. The confidence is in God's will, not in my faith. You know, I I pray all the time for my faith to grow stronger. And I wish I prayed more, not just in times of trouble or pain, or if I'm scared or if somebody else is scared. Um, and I don't really know how to articulate what that word confidently, wait confidently. I don't know how to articulate exactly what it stirred in me, but that word just really, it stirred something.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking about that confidence when you know that you know that you know. What would happen if we prayed with confidence, if we just had conversations with God with that confidence for ourselves, not necessarily for other people, because I know God will do it for other people. It's just, I wonder if he'll do it for me. You know?
What's that? Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. Talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend about her.
Hmm. Man, I build my best friends up.
Yeah. And you have confidence in your best friend. And so you just have to move that on to yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard though.
You are worthy.
I mean, people say that, but I don't feel that.
Well, God said it.
You're
Look
right.
back at
You're
some of
right.
our look back at some of our verses.
You're right. And I need to have confidence in that. So you're absolutely right. And then we go to Romans 12:12.
I used NIV and New King James. I do that a lot. And I use other verses as well. Um, the New King James version was ultimately the one that I highlighted and that I chose to use. And it says, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer. And the reason that I use both of them is because of some word differences, right? In the NIV, it had the word joyful in place of rejoicing. The NIV had affliction instead of tribulation. And the NIV said faithful in prayer, whereas New King James said continuing steadfastly in prayer. And I think that's what pushed me to go with the New King James, because I do need a reminder of being faithful means that I'm continually, steadfastly going to prayer. And I don't know why. It's like our last two verses, we both had words that mattered, and those matter to me. But rejoicing is the feeling or expression of joy. And then persistent distress and suffering are words used in the definitions of both affliction and tribulation. So they all mean the same thing, but what do those words mean to you? How do they affect you? How do they make you feel within a verse? And that's why I continue to go to all the different versions that I go to. Some days I go to 5 different versions, and that just helps me to have a better understanding of what what am I supposed to get from what I'm reading. And if I only used one verse, I might not get the what I think and feel are the true meaning of these verses, and combining them, because they've been translated how many times, but combining them gives me that ability to come to my own thought of what these verses mean for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I used, of course, the NLT, and it says, are you ready for it?
Yes.
Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. So, wow, there's that word, those two words, confident and patient again.
Yeah.
So, when we got to this verse, I kind of saw both verses together. Okay.
Yeah.
Romans and the Micah, I kind of saw it together. And if we have confident hope, we have no uncertainty, right? So then that would mean that our hope is certain. Patience is knowing that things take time and God doesn't need our help. Hope is knowing that the time spent, that's the waiting, will be worth it, right?
Right.
Confident hope is knowing that God knows what is best. So here it kind of all came together for me. We know who God is. We know. So whatever it is we're praying for in our situation, we can expect the outcome will always be for our favor. It may not be what we wanted or the way we saw it in our heads, but it will be for our favor and it will be for our good. And when you walk in a room because you have that confidence, because your hair's on point, the makeup's great, the outfit's popping, you walk in that room with that confidence, man, you don't care. Well, you know what them people are looking at. You look good, then people are looking at you, you know? That you know that they're looking at you and they're saying, man, she looks good, you know, regardless of what they really may be thinking. Okay. But you're so confident, it drowns all the what ifs out. So when I apply that mindset to both of these verses, it's like, wow, we can just pray and ask God for what we want. And we can patiently wait and we can confidently hope in what we're asking for. Even if we don't get exactly what we want, the outcome will be for our favor and for our good, even if we can't see it. And I was like, he'll answer. He always does. May not be what I want. And it may be a not now type situation, but he always hears us and he always answers. We can have that confident hope, knowing that he will, and confidently wait, knowing that he'll answer. And I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus, just for we're able to have that confidence just because of who he is, if for no other reason, just for who he is. And that should bring the masses of people in the middle of situations, in the middle of seasons where they're having to wait or endure, suffer. That should give them comfort. I hope it gives them comfort because it comforted me.
Well, that was a pretty good wrap up of our 3 verses.
Yay. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I You've talked to me before about a gratitude journal, and this was a long time ago that we actually did this, and I have in there that I'm going to start my gratitude journal. And since I haven't done that yet, this is my reminder to listen and do what I'm supposed to do and get that gratitude journal.
Yeah, and let's talk about that real quick. I started doing my gratitude journal and I just every day I write down at least 3 things that I am thankful for. And we get so caught up in the troubles, the hard stuff, the things that we need, the problems, the issues we have to work out, you know, that I know in my life I was finding myself constantly going to God asking for things, for help and for healing and for this provision and that provision. And I was never stopping to thank him, you know? like I was thankful. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't, walking around here like he owes me something, because he don't owe us anything. But, I just wasn't thanking him for the everyday stuff. The big stuff, of course I did, but the everyday stuff, and listen, y'all, sometimes in that journal, the best thing I can say is I woke up today. But that is something to be thankful for, you know. Um, it doesn't have to be anything big. I'm always, every single day, thankful for my son. But some days I'm thankful for the custodian at my school because she keeps us so clean. You know, we don't ever have a dirty bathroom at my school, and I'm thankful for that. And so, of course, there are some days where I have huge, big thank yous. And then there's others that I made it to school safely, you know? And so it just reminds you that he blesses us in so many ways because we don't have to make it to school safe, you know? We don't, not everybody gets to wake up every day, you know? Um, and the cool thing about that too is in this gratitude journal, after I would write at least my three things down, and I numbered them 1, 2, 3, I would find myself, God, I'm so thankful, but for these things, but I need X, Y, and Z, or I need this. I need to, okay, I'll just give you an example. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was like, God, I got to get up better in the mornings because I'm running. Not that I was late for work, but I was late for me for work,
Yes.
and but it was so cold and I just did not want to get out of bed. So my alarm's going off at 5:30 and I don't get out of bed till 6:25, 6:30 because it's so cold. I just don't want to get up and I'm lazy. And so then I'm rushing. And so my prayer, I was like, God, please help me. Just help me get up. And was that last week or the week before? I can't remember. I was like, one of my thankful things was, God, I popped right up this morning and it was cold. Thank you. I didn't have to rush and everything was all together. I didn't forget anything. And then I remembered when I wrote that down, that little prayer, just that quick little prayer. And I'm like, look at there, you answered prayers, and it is the coolest thing to be able to go back and see the prayers that he did answer. Because I have been writing little prayers down for probably just as long as I've been writing the gratitudes down. So it is so cool to be able to go back. And they're not big, long, drawn out prayers. God, I need you to help me get up in the mornings. And he did.
Yeah.
He cares about what you care about. And you don't see it when you're not putting it right in front of you. Sometimes you miss it. So it's been, that whole journey for me has been really, really cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I have spent some time, actually, once we started doing this, where I was writing things down, actually writing the versions into a notebook. And in the back of that notebook, I didn't start a gratitude journal. I started writing out prayers for others. Um, and then I would go back to it and I would look and see, okay, what's happening with this? All clear, recheck in March, doing well so far. Um, and marking through the things that had been handled, that God had taken care of, and then looking at the things that still were on my list that maybe I could actually pray for some more. And I mean, that was a big step for me just to write a few prayers on the back of something. So
Yeah.
every
That was
little step,
awesome.
every little step helps.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Look, I just in my gratitude journal, I literally write the date and then 1, 2, and 3, and I write my three things down. And like I said, sometimes they're big and sometimes they're not, but they're big to me. They're what, you know, I'm really thankful for that day. But sometimes I just can't see through my own eyelashes. So I woke up. I'm thankful I woke up, and that's okay to be thankful for that. But it changes your mindset, changes your whole mindset. It's the first thing I do when I get to school in the mornings. And that's why I like to get there early so that I have time to do that. And as soon as I write them down, just my whole demeanor just changes. It's I want to say it's crazy or it's weird. It's not, it's God. But it's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. It really is. Yep. All right. Well, we enjoy digging with y'all. If y'all have questions, please reach out to us on the Just Two Girls and Jesus Facebook page. That is where we interact with everybody and we comment, we talk back and forth. Um, you can check out the full episodes, YouTube and Spotify. And then we got some stuff on the TikTok, squeezing the lemon thing. Lemonade, that's what it's called. But that's how I remember the name is Squeezing Lemons. That's how when we first got on there, Squeezing Lemons. So that's how I remember the name. So I just went through my own thought process out loud there. Anyway. But yes, please like, share, subscribe, squeeze the lemons, ring the bells. What else do people do, Corey?
Instagram and comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what
Yeah.
you're thinking. And you can post anonymously on some of them. I don't know if you can do it on everything, but on Facebook, you can definitely post anonymously. So everybody doesn't have to know if you've got a question or a comment. But we want to hear from you so that we know that we're reaching out to you guys. We've got, what did she tell us? 6,000 views, which
I
is
know.
insane.
It is insane because we're just
Uh,
two girls. There is nothing, I mean,
that's
we're not
right.
special, but we are to God and we're doing what God asked us or told us to do. So that's how big He is, y'all. He's just awesome. I wish if you haven't given Him a try, please give Him a try. You will not be disappointed. All right. Well, y'all have a good week.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.